Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're joining me today on the Power Platform Today show. Welcome. Today with me, I have got a phenomenal guest, to be honest. I'm sure he loves being introduced this way. He is a massive titan of the community, and I will let him do more from there. So I will bring Scott Durow on now. Hello, please say hello to everyone who doesn't know you, which I'm sure is no.
Hello, everybody who doesn't know me. Great to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Reese. Yeah, I'm Scott Durow. It's great to be here. It's a real privilege. I'm really looking forward to having a bit of a chat with you. I just love the opportunity just to geek out, really. So, I'm just a big geek. Anyone who knows me knows that's what I just, yeah. So, but yeah, I work for Microsoft. I'm a cloud a cloud developer advocate. I used to be a solution architect. Joined Microsoft 2 years ago now, actually. How time flies. And before that was a Microsoft MVP for like 10 years. And yeah, it's been quite a journey, actually. I feel as though I've sort of like grown up with all of the different technologies we use today, and grown up with a lot of people in the community as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, your name keeps coming up, which for good reason. I mean, you were very much at the center of the UK community when it kind of was all starting. You've certainly been a stalwart of my career, because I still maintain that the Fiddler blog post that you did is one of my biggest time savers. And I still refer back to it. Like, if anyone ever needs to get set up, I will often still refer back to that same blog post because it's still mostly relevant. There's a few newer tweaks to worry about. Although more recently I found a different proxy that I've been quite enjoying. But that's an aside.
Yeah, I saw your post about it. Yeah, absolutely. It's yes, certainly. I mean, yeah, Fiddler was like the big thing back in the day. Now that there's so many different options and some things, lots of browser plugins and different, dev tunnels is a big thing. So there's so many different options and tools. But going back then, I mean, when was that? When was that blog post out? I mean, it was.
Well, so I would have been looking around about 2011 or 2012. So it would have been very much around that time because it was fairly recent. And I still remember seeing it and going, that's an option. And it changed everything because that back then we'd only just moved into proper web resource because it was the transition into 2011. It was within that year. So before that, I didn't do much with CRM4. I did two projects that were transitioning from CRM4 to 2011. And so I had to deal with some of the JavaScript rubbish from CRM4 days. But when they introduced solutions and web resources in the world of 2011, it was a very different ballgame. But you still had to copy and paste. So a lot of what you had to do was copy the code into there, save it, publish it, wait eventually till something changed, and then go and do your testing. So Fiddler just cut out all of that copy and paste rubbish so that you could just make the change locally. And I mean, it was well before the days of doing anything around auto builds or anything like the modern web sort of tool chain does all that for you. As soon as you save a file, it builds everything and it just automatically refreshes everything. It's a lovely live refresh. Now, obviously, in our world, we don't tend to have that. So that was the first thing that was even remotely close to that. And I was just like, oh, this is cutting edge web technology.
What is this magic?
It was. Well, I was
just blogging about stuff that was saving me time. I mean, back in those days, I was working on like yourselves, CRM projects, dynamics, extending the user interface, extending the server side, all the kind of classic stuff. And every time I found something, I was like, wow, this is really going to make it easier. I would just blog post out, or actually a lot of the time back then it was like the forums. So, someone would ask a question and I'd do some research and then I would discover something. I was like, actually, this is going to really help me. And that was always the nice thing about answering forum posts, was that it would always give back as much as that you gave in your answer. But yeah, I did a calculation, I think, back in the day. I think it might even be in one of my blog posts about like how much time it can save you, given the amount of time it used to take to, like you say, copy and paste and publish and refresh and all of the different things. And then if you assume on each project how many times you're going to do that, I mean, maybe me more than most people because I'm, making syntax errors all over the place. But of course, and then TypeScript came along and made that a lot easier as well. So I think did a similar post about how much time is TypeScript going to save you.
It's I'm not going to delve down. There's so many other things. Like I could probably speak to you for 2 or 3 hours quite easily. So because there's the mix of the tech, there's the actual community side, there's your day job. There's loads of things that I want to delve into. So I'm gonna put the tech on the side for the time being because I want to go back a second. You mentioned earlier. So obviously you work at Microsoft now. Now one of the things that people out there might not know when you become a Microsoft employee, you hang up your MVP boots, so to speak. Did that hurt? Did that sting? Because I mean, 10 years. It was 10 years, wasn't it, when you became a Microsoft
Yeah,
employee?
it was. Yeah, exactly. I had my 10-year disc, and then it was actually technically 11 years, but it's just because they changed the way that the award cycle went. But yeah, that 10-year period, I feel so I still feel privileged to have been in the community for that 10 years, but also feel proud about actually what I achieved during that 10 years. But also that 10 years of being in the MVP program and the opportunities that gave me and the people that I connected with really have very much made me the person I am today and brought me to the places that I am today, certainly at Microsoft. So yeah, I feel very lucky to have been and have those 10 years. But yeah, to answer your question, did I feel anything? Obviously, when you are part of something for so long, a decade of your life is a long time. And it was such a big part of my career as well, because it gave me opportunities and opened doors. And I got to know the other MVPs really, really well, and go to MVP Summit and all of those great things. So yeah, there was certainly a feeling of, oh, I'll miss those things, but certainly it did feel as though the right time just to draw a line under that and then move on to something more. And that was, yeah, joining Microsoft. It felt like a logical step.
Yeah, cool. And I mean, it's not like you can't get it back later on if you do eventually leave Microsoft or not. Some people stay there for decades.
Yeah.
I know that Chris is a good example, Chris Hunterford, because obviously when he went, he was MVP, and when he came back out, he almost went straight back into the program. It was kind of, he was still doing community things, and someone else nominated him, and he went back in. So it's not like it's
Yeah. Yeah.
forever. The door is closed. But even saying that, it's not like you've stopped because your role at Microsoft is an interesting one. It's an advocacy role, which is, in other words, it's community. So, like, do you feel what you do professionally is that much different to what you were doing when it came to MVP and blogging? Is there quite a bit of overlap between that?
There's certainly a huge overlap. Yes. The community work is great that I still get to travel all over the place and talk at events and meet everyone. And I also get to work with the new tech that's coming out. And I think if I was to put my finger on one thing about being an MVP, it is very much that it's being an early adopter of things and trying things out and giving feedback to the product team, and applying it to the various different things that you in your particular domain of knowledge. And I still get to do that, and I work closely with the product team and try things out. And when we are building in the advocacy team that I'm part of, when we're building content out, a lot of the time it's showing people about the new things that are coming out, maybe preview features, but also it's collecting feedback from the community and sort of feeding that back the other way. So it's a two-way street, and I think that's one of the things that is different, is that I get much more of an opportunity, a broader scope of feedback from a broader set of people, whereas before the kind of feedback I was getting was for the organizations that I was helping and working with in my consulting business. And so that was naturally just limited to the particular projects I was working on, whereas now I do feel as though I'm listening to many, many more different channels.
Yeah, I suppose that. Yeah, you got a feet in many camps, a foot in many camps. Uh, cool.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
definitely. And we have a lot of initiatives that we're working on and building content. I obviously used to do a lot of YouTube videos, and my own personal channel has haven't been as active in that channel because I'm now doing videos for Microsoft. So it's interesting when you join a large organization like Microsoft. It's very easy to sort of see yourself, your own well, personal brand. As an MVP, you have a personal brand,
mm,
right? And that's very much who you are and in public. And when you join an organization, you think, well, is that going to then remove that personal brand? Am I sort of like just going to be absorbed by the corporate? And so I think advocacy does give a natural opportunity to still keep that personality in the public space because yeah, you're talking to people about the tech. You're
yeah.
talking about Microsoft tools in exactly the same way as I was when I was an MVP. And ultimately, it boils down to your passion, I think, because whether or not you're an MVP or you're working for Microsoft, it doesn't change your passion. And my passion is for the tools that Microsoft builds. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if I'm being on the payroll or not.
So you say that, but there must be a little difference because there's probably some stuff that Microsoft would be upset if you were to say in public or demo or do something. Because I know that some people have fallen out with the MVP program because they feel they're being more honest than Microsoft likes. And there's a whole running debate out there on that side of things. So for yourself, it's different because you're actually employed by them. So there's elements of stuff where surely you're not allowed to say exactly what you think. But even saying that, I don't know if you would, because you are a relentlessly positive person. I don't think that would
Well,
even
thank you.
because but then you've always also been realistic. So I don't get the feeling that you're like a faceless salesperson for Microsoft. But there must be a balance to be struck there between what you feel you're able to say and what you might want to say.
Well, now we're really getting into some juicy territory. I think like we were chatting before the show, right? I think these are the really good things to talk about, rather than just sort of, skirting around them. It's a
Oh, no,
difficult topic.
straight at
Let's
the
not
red
talk
line.
about
That's
that.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's true. And obviously, if you are representing Microsoft, if you're representing any company, then you don't want to say things
Mm,
that are going to discourage people from using Microsoft products. Now, I always want to think that I am honest and I am true and authentic to my views. I don't think I will say anything if I feel as though there is some pressure to say the right thing or say the thing that's pull the party line, that
mm,
kind of mentality. I think I will generally avoid saying something on the topic rather than saying something because I have to say it.
right.
Um, so, and but saying that, I've not actually had to censor myself because it seems like that's like a self censorship, and
Mhm.
I have never had to do that so far, and I've not got in trouble yet. And I have been honest, and I have said things that are not necessarily, "Hey, isn't it all great? It's all rosy," because that's not technology.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the world that we live in. I mean, tech is full of compromise,
Hmm.
trade-offs, um, journeys that we're moving on in a particular place, which we don't necessarily always know where the destination is.
Yeah.
I think if any organization is saying, "Hey, we've got it all sewn up. We know exactly what we're going. Our product has got all the best things, and we've made all the right decisions, and we're never going to have any compromise." I think then you probably authenticity and believability goes down with them.
Yeah.
So, I would like to think certainly that being authentic in the public space gives you a certain degree of perhaps credibility and forms a certain degree of trust because I'm certainly not going to just say things because I have to say things. And I hope people appreciate that.
Yeah. I think that definitely does appear to come across. It's not like what you're saying in the pub after the event is really any different to anything you're saying on the stage or in front of anything. So that's cool. So if we go really far back then, so The community starting in the UK. So you were one of the very first group that was doing the user groups in London, from what I understand. Is that right? So you got in with Bibby
Yeah.
back in the day, and the others. So how did you fall into community? What were you doing in your life that got you to that?
Well, yeah, that's quite a story. That certainly goes back. Um, yeah, it's like over 2 decades now, which is crazy to think about it. Um, but I mean, I started off in, I mean, I was a physics grad and I started off in laser research. It's funny because
Laser research.
my, yeah, exactly. It's crazy, you know, like, not the kind of lasers that you know, pew, pew, pew kind of thing, but, it was industrial control systems with lasers, manufacturing TFT panels and also like doing lithography on silicon chips and things like that. And my youngest son, he always jokes because his mission is to basically invent teleportation. You know, his like ultimate goal is like, why haven't we invented teleportation yet? Like, he doesn't understand what the problem is, and he's like, this is going to happen. And he's like, you know, Dad, why didn't you leave physics? Why didn't you just stay in physics and invent teleportation? I'm like, okay, you know, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
I guess.
that's a high bar.
Maybe, yeah, maybe if I not, maybe there's a possibility, but I'd say it's fairly slim. But yeah, I went into business software ultimately because it was just by chance that I kind of one of my projects ended up being more businessy than industrial scientific, and yeah, so I've always had this. But I've always had this sort of scientific kind of approach to things. I've always wanted to sort of improve and find like the most efficient, most optimized way of doing things, because that's what physics teaches you. It teaches you to kind of understand all the different variables and experiment by varying certain things and keeping other things the same, and then comparing, and then look for trends, and then try and steer your experimentation in the direction that's actually going to achieve your goals. And so I applied all that training really to software. So I've always had this like, how do I become better at what I do, you know, and how do we work better as a team? And I also had like this. I loved art and I loved animation and things like that. So I loved Disney animation, Disney Pixar stuff. I used to quite do a lot of 3D modeling and things. And I was always just fascinated by these huge teams. Like, you know, you look at the credits of animation. Yeah, and you think basically an animated film today is one of the most sophisticated software projects,
It's true.
because it's not just people like animators drawing stuff. You know, I mean, there is a bit of that, but the huge part of it is software engineering and process engineering, and project management and direction of different disciplines all working together. The game industry is exactly the same. And I used to love building game. And you know, I've you know, done a lot of game stuff in Power Platform. But I was fascinated, like, how do you make all these people that are coming from different directions work together? And that was the thing that led me into CRM back then, because it was like, hang on a minute, here's a way of having a way of building software which is quick. So it's kind of like the 4GL languages that I'd been using a little bit before. But you could have people who are business consultants coming in and using the tools to sort of prototype and build. And also it meant that I didn't have to write so much code myself, because I was like just a full stack developer doing websites for, like, you know, trading platforms and stuff like that. So I didn't have to write that boilerplate code, and it was consistent, it was quick, and it was metadata driven, all these great things. And so that's what kind of brought me into this way of working with lots of different people. Now, if you fast forward a little bit, I saw this community that was run by Adam Vero back in the day. He's still on the edge of the community a little bit, and yeah, it was at Thames Valley Park in the UK, where Microsoft headquarters were. And so I just went along, and what blew me away was just the diversity of different people there, and that was my first experience, I think, of community.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always talk about like third place, right? You know, you have to have a third place. You know, you've got your home, you've got your work, and you need a third place. You need a place where you can sort of interact with people in a different way that to work to those polar opposites, work and home. So it's sort of like that meeting at the halfway house. And so such a variety of different people, from people from business backgrounds, people from creative backgrounds, people from so many different industries. Like a really good, a great example is a good friend I sort of got to know, is came from working on, he was worked on a donkey that donkey sanctuary back down in Cornwall, I think it was.
Jeez.
And I mean, we used to love visiting donkey sanctuaries with the kids, and it was just like, that's crazy that, whereas where I'd been working was like software engineering, everyone was like just techies, everyone was software people, coming from that direct. So that's what drew me in. So many different types of people, so many different backgrounds, and all coming together and like trying to actually work out how can we do this better together.
Yeah.
And so that was a sort of almost like the first beginnings of fusion.
I was just
we
thinking
talk about
that,
fusion
yeah.
development today. And also low code in the sense, because before even low code was a buzzword, because it was about like, how do we build software without having to crack open Visual Studio, or whatever your IDE of choice was back then. And then so I kind of talked to Adam a bit, and he said, "Oh, why don't you speak?" And so I just started to speak on some of the topics I was doing, and that really just started off. And I don't think that's any different to anybody else getting into community like yourself. I mean, it's probably the same story, right?
Less lasers and less tech. So it is, and that's one of the things that fascinates me about the Power Platform, is and why I do this. The people that are doing this job, I don't think I know of a single person that's gone through. Well, no, there is no single person that I know of that has gone through a software development university degree and then landed a Power Platform or a Dynamics job. It just doesn't work that way. Now, there may have been people that have done software development as their degree, and they will have gone and done software development somewhere else, and then they will have fallen into it. But it's almost everyone falls into it. And it's quite interesting what you were talking about, the third place idea. I've never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense. I think that you've got at home, there's different things. Some people see home as their sanctuary, their relaxing place. Work is the money maker. That's where you go to get the money. And then your third place is your passion. It's the things you do outside of those other places. And it's like-minded individuals, whether it's some sort of fitness, whether it's community around this. I like that, because that kind of sums up a lot of what happens in terms of user groups and the community-driven conferences. Because that's where they've all come from. They've all come from this desire, this need to meet with everyone else and talk. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. This is really interesting. This is really cool. Look at this. So
it's a passion.
It is.
It's the sharing of that passion, and getting excited together of that common interest. And there used to be that third place. People used to get like from kind of community halls, kind of religious kind of gatherings, or just simply the fact that people were all living in the same village. It's like, because you just didn't travel. I mean, that was just, so you were just naturally had this sense of community. But I think that's been lost, I think, as certainly in a post-COVID world, where there is much, much more separation physically. Some people are doing a lot of things. So actually having that opportunity to come together and actually be in the same physical place, I think there is something that just does not beat that you can't simulate the spark that happens, as you say, from people just being there and just talking and saying, "Oh, I've been doing this," and expressing that passion, and then people just finding it infectious and then saying, "Yeah, well, actually, I could use that," or I've done it this way, and sharing those ideas. And I think when you first start talking to people, it's like, if you fast forward a little bit, I mean, I became one of the leaders of the user group, and so I was trying to encourage new speakers, because we were always trying to get new people in, and I'd always say to people, like, do you know what? Doesn't matter what you've got to say, people want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is unique. Like, every single person is doing something unique. It's so easy to think, no one wants to hear about this, because they've all done that before. Someone's already spoken about that, or someone's already done it, or someone's written about it. Well, actually, no, because by very definition of what you've done, it is unique. It's because it's the unique scenario, unique organization you're working with, a group of people, the dynamic of the way in which you work together, the way that the tech worked or didn't work, or how people reacted to it.
Yeah.
And so that was what I would always say, is that rather than just thinking about just perhaps like click this button, click this button, click this button, we'll think about it as like, well, how did that work when you used it? Like, what is it? What is your experience with it?
Yeah.
That's the gold dust. That's the thing that people are just so hungry to hear about.
Yeah, and that's how I got into speaking. So I mean, I don't speak that often, but I do speak whenever I get a chance to. Certainly for me, I don't travel as much. It would be nice to, but that's just at this moment in my life, it's not so straightforward. But when I started in speaking, it was exactly that. My first presentation was on Dynamics portals. So it was just after ADX had been purchased by Microsoft, and I'd already spent, at that point, I'd delivered a customer project on it. So this was a year after actually it was purchased. So it was a year of implementing it. And it was a successful project. We did, I really pushed the boundaries of what you could do on that as far as I could see. And so my presentation was basically, here are 10 tips of things that I've learned from doing this. And it's exactly that. It was my spin. It was what I learned, exactly that, from doing it. And afterwards, the thing that really made it worthwhile for me was someone came up to me and said, we're about to go and do a project like that. Your tip number 5 or whatever it was, that one has saved us a bunch of time because we were worried about that as a thing. That means that we can't use that for this particular project at this moment, so we need to look more into it. And that was to me, that was brilliant, because that was validation of what I was talking about made sense and someone had use from it. And a few people I've spoken to on here that when they first got speaking, that's all they're looking for, is they're looking for at least one person to take value out of it. If you've got at least one person in your audience that takes value out of it, it's worth it. And that's it. And yeah, but then I say quite a lot on here, community is not just about getting up and speaking. It's about being there.
Yeah, no, I 100%. Yeah. I mean, it in fact, community, the speaking part of it is just simply perhaps an excuse to come together. I mean, it seems bad, but like the reality is like to go to a conference, there needs to be commitment from employer, or if you work for yourself, you obviously got to make some kind of financial commitment, or if your employer is not supportive, then you need to take time off. And so there does need to be an element of like, okay, I need to go here because I'm going to learn something, and so you do. Yeah, you do need some reason to come, but then I think that the actual listening to one person is just a small part of it. I think it's actually and I think sometimes the softer aspects, the less tangible aspects, I think are probably somewhat underestimated by organizers. I mean, I do hear a lot of the time employees saying, "Oh, well, we can't justify sending this number of people to this event because of the costs," and I get that. And certainly justification wise, it might be like, well, the things that people are talking about aren't necessarily going to be directly relatable because we're not doing that. But I think the encouragement and the positivity injection and the energy that you get out from attending something like that, being in that third space, the psychological, if you like, the softer aspect that you get out of that is, I think, huge, because it energizes you, it encourages you, it inspires you, it instills you. There is an infectious element to passion.
Yeah.
If you see somebody being passionate about something, you can't help but get excited about it. And that is just magic. When you see that happening, and you then hear people posting about it after, saying, this really inspired me to go and do this and do that, or this was the takeaways I had, and then I'm going to go and take that and then use that in my job, or even tell somebody else about it. Like when you see people say, we had an internal work event where I sort of replayed some of the things I learned. It's like a pay it forward thing, because you can imagine like that, some of that energy starts with that event, and then that energy sort of then gets distributed around to multiple other places and spreads.
Yeah,
So I think that's real special when you
yeah,
see that.
it's definitely infectious. I mean, it's one of those things that actually, we talked to Dana last week about this. So going to conference, she feels more introverted than extroverted, and so for her, a conference at the end of the conference, she's depleted. She's very low on energy. She's still excited because she's gone through a lot of interesting conversations. There's been a lot of interesting things she's picked up, but she's drained at the end of that conference. Whereas for me, I'm also drained, but it's because I've been speaking the whole time or whatever else. And I'm more on the extroverted side from that perspective. So I get the buzz from being around people. So for me,
Yeah,
the best thing about the conference is the interactions with people in the hallways and the pubs after. I love all
yeah.
that. And the pub quiz. I always enjoy the pub quiz.
Well, we all love a pub quiz, but yeah, it's the challenges as well. Like because uh, when I'm watching people speaking and listening to content, I'm always looking for things that challenge my status quo. Like, I've never thought about it that way,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't have done it like that. That's interesting. I'm because I think we need those things. We need to be challenged. We need to have diversity in everything. Like I think we talk about diversity inclusion, right? But I think diversity is in the way we talk about it is just the tip of the iceberg. I think diversity is a much broader thing, and I think it really boils down to how we see the world, and I think and how we embrace different opinions and how we explore different avenues. Because if we have a closed mind, especially in IT, and especially today in this kind of AI obsessed world that we're living in, it's so important to be able to challenge that. Like, okay, well, I've always done it like this, but are there different ways of doing that with the different tools? How is that opening up different opportunities to work in new ways that I've never thought of? And I think that's where you can get those sparks happening when you're listening to somebody, be it down the pub in the pub quiz, or just listening to them because they're doing a keynote or doing a tech breakout or in a workshop. All these different things, all of those places, that's where those sparks can happen.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't connected those dots before, but so the modern science, I'm going a slight tangent. Modern science is very, it's become so specialized and so difficult to be able to cross different, different theoretical boundaries that as a result, you become a very specific type of scientist. You might be a scientist that focuses on only red lasers, and that's your entire research focus. Whereas there's someone else that does only
Helium
green
neon,
layers.
maybe.
Yeah, you,
YAG
teleportation.
The green YAG lasers would be green. So there we go.
So they specialize so much because it's just such it's difficult not to. But as a result, you miss that ability to find discoveries that happen through cross-pollination. So back in the early Renaissance in science, when science was really growing and it was a massive thing, it wasn't even called science at the time. It was philosophy, because actually what you were doing was you were trying to uncover the discoveries of the world, but you had many different levers to pull. And so you were trying all sorts of different things. And so there's certainly evidence to say that a lot of people that were early scientists were, polymath is one way to say it, but essentially they were just interested in lots of different topics. And they drew on each one of those topics to come up with their solutions. And they may have been novel because they've looked at something from a different angle without even realizing. And so that same thing happens when you're at conferences, when you're going to, I don't know, a Power BI presentation. You're there because you couldn't find another slot. You ducked into a room and suddenly someone's talking about Power BI. It's like, I have no idea. I don't use Power BI. But they are talking about data and how to manipulate it and get it to the right place. I didn't even know data pipelines was an option. Maybe I should look into that. And that's where conferences and user groups allow you to do that, because you get a little window into someone else's world.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned sort of philosophy, and if you wind back to sort of all the Greek philosophers, and they weren't doing this stuff in the vacuum.
Hmm.
A lot of the if you read the works, they're actually having conversations. They're actually, you think about the forum where they all go to actually talk about different things and present on different topics, and some of those being political, some of them being like management, some of them just being philosophical kind of debates or ethical debates, um, and challenging the ways that society was thinking at the time.
Yeah.
And that all came from conversations and with other people. You can't do things in a vacuum, because if you do things in a vacuum, you get like a stasis of, and you
Yeah.
need something to disturb that,
Yeah.
to come up with those ideas.
Yeah. That is really interesting. I honestly, I hadn't thought of that. Let's put a new spin on it. Right. I have to go to many conferences now. Cool. All right. So that kind of brings us to the other. So we're talking a little bit about different kind of contributions to community, let's say. Now, this is, I mentioned before that I could speak to you for 3 hours or so, because you've got so many different things that you have done, one of which is the Ribbon Workbench. Now, anyone that has customized a model-driven app has used the Ribbon Workbench. Even still more recently with the modern commanding, we still need Ribbon Workbench. It's still a requirement for a bunch of different features and functionality. So I want to know about the Ribbon Workbench. Like you already, I think, answered it earlier as to why it came about. And you've been looking at ways to make things better and share. But to me, that seems like a massive undertaking, because it's not a small data set. What you can put into the ribbon diff in the XML is pretty vast. So how long did it take you to build that, the sort of first thing? And like, talk to me about the Ribbon Workbench. I want to know everything about it.
Well, it's certainly, I think, it's, even today I go to events and I talk, and like I was talking at Build and EPPC recently on AI and AI driven development and Copilot Studio and things, and people come up to after me, and they'll still say, "Oh, thank you for the Ribbon Workbench," and so it's still very much part of who I am today.
Yep.
And it just all happened by accident. I mean, and I would have never have if someone had said, "Oh, look, in kind of 15 years, you're going to be talking about this
throwaway
tool
tool."
out," I would have just said, "You're crazy." I mean, if someone had told me that we would still have the same technology, the same ribbon structure, the actual XML structure, and sort of fast forward 15 years or over 15 years now, then it's I would have not believed them. But it did come about by answering forum posts. I mean, and also I was the kind of team lead for the consultancy I was working with at the time, and building solutions for customers and having to build in custom buttons in the ribbon, and it was just, I was answering all these forums about like, this is just crazy hard. How do you do this? All the errors, and I was just sort of building this library of, if you get this error, then this is the kind of problem. This is how you solve it. Or if you want to do this, this is the structure of the XML you need to do. Or this is the kind of piece of code you need to write in order to download a structure. And then this is what you need to do. So I kind of built a knowledge base for myself. And it was really out of necessity, just to try and make it easy to do that. And it started off as just like a command line tool. And so then, and it was back in Silverlight, when Silverlight was a thing. So I thought, wow, I might as well because I loved Windows. I like building user apps in Windows at the time. It was a big thing of mine. And Silverlight was like, great, I could make it in a browser. I could actually put this inside CRM itself, because we could customize things inside the user interface with Silverlight. So I put a whole kind of user interface on it, and just the rest is history, really. And it kind of went through multiple different iterations, and I rewrote it, because then I rewrote it using just HTML and JavaScript, and it was jQuery. And that was on the back of building, again, because I was doing this trying to be more efficient at building user interfaces to extend dynamics. was like, I need to build a library. We can't just build a user interface every single time from scratch using HTML and J. We need a library that looks like the CRM controls, like forms,
Mm.
lookups and grids that allows you to search and filter and all the different things. And so I built a whole library that did that, which was Sparkle XRM. And
Hmm.
then that was like, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to just ditch Silverlight because Silverlight was deprecated. I'm still emotionally scarred from that. But then it was like, okay, well, just rebuild it using the library that I've already built to create user interfaces. So it sort of those projects fed off each other, and yeah, it was Sparkle Extra. I mean, okay, it didn't become like a household name, but it was it was pretty successful. A lot of people were using it. And in fact, actually, someone contacted me recently from it was like a government project, and it was like because it was just there. It was an on-premise version of CRM. It hadn't been touched. It just was carrying on working, and it was still using Sparkle XRM, which is pleasing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I came across Sparkle not so much for the XRM part. I looked at it and it was certainly as a UI library, it was good. I just have a fundamental urge not to use something like that in certainly in customer projects because it's longevity and looking after it and other people wouldn't know it and always worried me. So I tried to avoid that. However, it had the Sparkle runner. Now that was very useful. And that kind of takes me, well, I want to go back to Ribbon Workbench in a moment, but since we're on the Sparkle, do you have any involvement with the Power Platform CLI build team, like the actual? Because you've been building tools like the Pack CLI yourself. I mean, the Sparkle Runner it's a forerunner of some of the stuff that's in there, and other people have built other tools as well. But Sparkle did it quite in a nice way in many different ways. I thought I used it certainly for the web resource deployment quite a bit, and also plugins because at the time it was certainly one of the more straightforward ways to push a plugin into an environment. But do you get involved with the Pack CLI with the team and helping them decide on how to develop that tool? Do you ever do that sort of cross pollination?
Yeah, certainly. And I feel it's a privilege to be able to work with them. And ever since I built Sparkle as a way of making that development process, slicker, easier, quicker, less error prone. Let's face it, that's why we do the automation, isn't it? To make
Hmm.
it so it's repeatable and less error prone. And so you can put it into build pipelines and the like. Yeah, very quickly I was sort of in contact with various different people at Microsoft who were like, okay, well, this is good. We kind of want a first party way of doing this. And that was always what I said is that, okay, I'm just doing this now, not because I want some sort of ownership of this. It's just like, well, this is a necessity.
Hmm.
I've always said that my goal of all of my tools, like everything I do, all the open source stuff is the ultimate goal is I want it first party.
Yeah.
If I can inspire and like get kind of some engagement and some energy and some interest to show that there is interest in something so that first party tools then could be built, because obviously ultimately if there's going to be any investment from Microsoft, there needs to be some clear
Yeah.
need for it. And it's
Yeah.
interesting the fact that you can't just like build stuff and just on a whim. So yeah, that was my ultimate goal, was like, okay, let's build this, show that there's interest, and then hopefully we'll see it first party. And I was delighted to be able to work with the Pack CLI team a little bit, and it's been amazing to see gradually the things that Sparkle did becoming more or less all now in the Pack CLI.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, web resources and and plugin deployment. Notably, those are the two things that aren't there yet in the Pack CLI. But
Plugin deployment
there's
is.
been, sorry,
Plugin deployment is. Yeah, you can push a plugin package.
Pack plugin push. But I
Yeah.
mean the actual step registration
That
using
part, yeah, again, that's
yeah,
another one
yeah.
where the tool that you had did it in a nice way. Like that was something that, yeah, Microsoft still hasn't. But that kind of brings it also to there's a bit of a balancing act there as well because, and again, with the Ribbon Workbench, you built such a good tool that I think that Microsoft for a long time were like, oh, we don't need to build anything. There's a fantastic community tool. You were the first project that I came across that was documented in the Microsoft documentation. I still remember reading that and going, so you can edit this by hand, but there's this great tool. You just go use the tool.
Yes. Yeah. I remember when that first happened, and then when I remember someone reaching out to me and saying, "Oh, did you know that the Ribbon Workbench is now in the official Microsoft certification guide? There's questions on it in the
Oh, that's
exam."
amazing.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most bizarrest points. But yeah, I have been perhaps accused of doing too good of a job, and I'll take that, to be honest.
The thing is,
Um,
it's there's a balancing act there definitely because Microsoft will, as you say, they'll invest in what they can invest in, what makes sense. And yes, there is a tool there that does such a good job. So there is an element where we don't need to worry so much, but it doesn't matter. It is a good tool. Like it's always remained a good tool. Like it's the underlying technology, as you say, has not changed. So your tool itself still does all of that well. And yes, you've gone through a few different facelifts because there's also the XRM Toolbox version, which I don't even know if other people out there are still aware, because I know that I've been working with people over the last even couple of years that still import the solution. I'm like, no,
right. Yeah.
don't do that.
Do that. Yeah, don't do that.
There's a tool. Go use the tool. But was it?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that the XRM Toolbox had to be modified to allow you to do that? Because I think you were the first web-based tool that was in it.
Yeah. No, I was working a little bit with Tangi at the time, and I mean I managed to get it working without any modifications to the XM Toolbox because it was, yeah, I was sort of just hosting a little mini web server really, and it's the same code base, which was one of my main priorities, not to fork the code base so that it would be exactly the same running whether or not it's in the browser or in their XM Toolbox. But now, of course, and Tangi's made it easier to do that, which is great. So yeah, and then that's what's so cool about the community is when you see these things happen, like the progression, you can kind of go back through the years and see how things have evolved. But of course, modern commanding is the future. So I wouldn't want anyone to think that I'm kind of saying, use the old ways of doing things. If you can use the modern commanding, use modern commanding, because it's definitely it's definitely the way forwards. Obviously there's gaps, and those gaps will be plugged if they are seen to be a significant priority. But if you look at the things, that gradually new features are just coming into the modern commanding. We've been somewhat a little bit distracted, if you by other things. I don't know, AI might have been a little bit
Copilot. They should have used Copilot to rewrite or to add modern Copilot. Modern commanding features. Yeah,
exactly.
In fact, there probably is going to be. They've probably added a Copilot button into it by now.
Yes. Yeah. Add your button with Copilot. I mean, it did. I know that Jonas has done an awesome job of putting an LLM connection into Fetch XML Builder, which is cool. I always love seeing the new features he's putting in there, and it did occur to me. I was like, oh wow, I could go do that. But then I was like, well. Yeah, no, it's. I think looking forwards is the best approach.
That's actually That's another one that's quite interesting. So I would put you and Jonas in very similar territory in that I've been using your tools for probably as long as each other, to be honest, because both your blog and his blog, I remember finding about the same time. I've been using the Fetch XML Builder as long as I've been using Ribbon Workbench. I think those two tools are still absolutely critical tools for anyone that's working with the system, because that's the thing. You're right, modern commanding does a lot, and I always say use it first, because always use first party first, just because that's where Microsoft are investing. So use it first, and where there's a gap, fill it with something else, and that's where you need to know what the something else is. So the Ribbon Workbench is still something that people need to know is an option, because otherwise they just won't even know, oh yeah, I can overwrite an existing button, because it's still a requirement. So many customers still want to get rid of a bunch of buttons. So the two of you are in the same area for me in my headspace of techie developers of tools. So do you just said it, you look at what Jonas is doing, adding in LLM functionality. Do you look at his stuff and go, oh, I really need to do some more stuff on the Ribbon Workbench now? Do you get a little bit of rivalry?
None whatsoever. Like, I feel I've done my time on, in keeping it, because there was a period of time where things were changing so quickly, right?
Mhm.
It was new stuff was coming into the ribbon XMLs, new ways of, like, like the ribbon changed to be the command bar, and then the command bar went through many
Oh
different
God, yeah.
iterations. And I mean, there was so much flux, and I was constantly making changes and constantly adding features in, and constantly having to debug what customers were, like users were saying, like, this is come on, it is getting this error.
Yeah.
Why is that error happening? It's like, oh, it's because this part of the platform has changed. So then we entered into this sort of period of stability, and I was like, oh, actually, because I built all these automated build and also automated testing, and suddenly things would just slow down because all of the effort was on modern commanding. And so it was almost like that classic side of things was just ring fenced. And of course, now we've entered into this a little bit of renaissance of model-driven apps, which is lovely seeing. If you like us, we've come from that background.
Yeah.
Model-driven apps certainly are now becoming the sort of flavor of the month because, or the quarter or whatever, because of the way the opportunity was to work alongside AI because of
Mhm.
the metadata. Rich metadata works great with AI
Yep.
because AI can then do things without having to infer things because it's got that metadata you can read from to be able to query, to create graphs, all the great stuff you can get. So it's interesting to see that happening, and therefore the focus happening, the being on model driven apps more. And I think that's what's happening now is that the investment that's coming in commanding is to facilitate those AI features. So actually, even though it has been a distraction, I think what we're starting to see now is it's now driving innovation
Mhm.
at the model-driven app level, which is really nice to see.
Cool.
So no, I don't get any kind of pressure to go back and add things in. I'm way too busy. My brain's full of, like, all these new things that are coming out. Let's work out how to use those. I've been doing a lot of focus on generative coding at the moment. So
Mhm.
how do we become more efficient by using LLMs to code for us, or
Mhm.
uh, using LLMs alongside our applications to make our applications more intelligent, and all of those kind of things, and
Yeah.
obviously building agents, and how the analogies of agents. That's what my geek out thing at the moment is like the analogies of agents to the software engineering of old. Because I'm looking back and sort of going glassy eyed through all the different revolutions we've been through in software engineering. Like when I first started out, it was like, okay, well, we're doing this, going to this whole 4GL languages to make, which was basically model driven app kind of in its infancy, because it was metadata driven, and it was
Mhm.
making being able to write code that you didn't have to write everything from scratch. But ultimately, still there was a lot of SQL there, a lot of code still.
Mhm.
Um, but then we obviously went into the N-tier architectures and service orientated architectures and microservices and enterprise service buses, and so many different iterations of trying to kind of do the same thing but better, and
Yeah.
making it work better with whatever was happening in the world at the time. And AI is doing the same thing, but I still do fundamentally believe that although AI is crazy different and in brand new opportunities, I love looking at it, looking for analogies. I'm all about the analogy. I'm always about, have we done this before?
Mhm.
That's what I love about history. It's like, history repeats itself.
Yep.
Same things over
Yep.
and over again. It's just the names have been changed,
Yeah.
and the places are maybe different. But so yeah, you look at AI and you look at the comparisons of things, and you think, wow, actually, no, it's not that different. Like we talk about, teams of agents working together, A to A, MCP service. It's like it's kind of like microservices as well in the way. So you can think about, like, what did we learn by doing those things? What was the ultimate thing that we went, actually, these are the best practices, and then saying, how do we take those best practices and just flip them and apply them to this new way of doing things? And I think there's a lot of things to be mined from
Mhm.
the old way of doing things.
Well, yeah, and I think that's that sort of cross pollination as well. That idea. So also history. You're right. It's knowing history can help because you can look back at different ways of doing things and uh, that have happened in the past. So if you look at Visual Basic, even Access, and these sort of technologies that came along to try and make it easier for anyone to build software. They're just different sort of iterations of the same kind of concept. Power Platform, Dataverse, model-driven apps is really just a fancy cloud-based version of Visual Basic in many ways, and it is interesting to look at it in that light. Yeah, nothing's really new under the sun, truly.
It's design patterns. I mean, that the
Yeah,
thing is, we've lost a lot of that popular knowledge that used to be there. I think, but with agile methodologies and just fail fast, fail often, they're fantastic for making progress quickly. But I think it's sometimes I was talking to someone recently about this, about the English phrase, like throwing the baby out with the bathwater,
hmm
which I always think is just the most appalling of phrases.
it's
Like,
it's quite a visual one.
yes, exactly. It's like, how many ways there is there to skin a cat? I'm like, no, don't skin a cat. Just do not, under any circumstances, skin a cat. I mean, so I don't know where these phrases come from, but they're pretty heinous. But yeah, I think that sometimes it's easy to forget about those things that we learn
Yeah.
in those design patterns. And so the trick is, how do we apply what we learn without being bogged down with perhaps some of the analysis paralysis that can kind of come out from some of those more rigorous processes?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I would love to delve further, but we have come to time, so I need to finish there. Otherwise, we're going to lose everyone interested. Although again, I'll have to get you on at some point later to continue the conversation.
Yeah,
But
it'd be my pleasure. I'd love to.
it's been wonderful. I do like to finish off with my rapid fire questions, so we'll fire into those, and then we will call it an evening. Um, all right. So, favorite Power Platform service?
Oh, yes, it has to be Power Apps because that's where I come from. Yeah,
Yeah,
through and through Power
it's
Apps.
the best. Favorite conference? See, you
Oh,
go to quite a few.
that's
This one's gonna be tricky.
yeah, that's really hard. I mean, I think I would have to say EPPC,
Ah,
European Power
cool.
Platform Conference. I love the smaller ones as well. So, but I think just because everyone comes together from
Yeah,
all over Europe, I love that. I love that.
cool. Last music you can remember listening to?
The last music. Oh, okay. So I know you're trying to wrap up, but I found this awesome website called radio.garden.
Ooh.
And it's like you can just go all around the world and like just listen into radio stations.
Oh, that's cool.
Just anywhere in the world. It's like like in Greenland, all over the place. Anyway, I found this awesome radio station in New Zealand, North Islands of New Zealand, and it's called Waikiki Radio. And I've been using Shazam, and most of the stuff that they play is not on Spotify or YouTube
Oh, wow.
music. And occasionally they do, and it's like less than 100 listeners per month. And it's just awesome. I just love that. I'm all about these kind of and it's all local artists as well. It's like just people who live in, and it's this tiny island with like, I don't know how many people there, can't live many people that live there, but apparently they've got enough to keep a radio station going. So
I love it.
yeah,
The
that's
second
my
you said
idea.
that, I just had this image of like a radio sort of like a little shack on a beach, and someone spinning their decks in there.
I think it's not far off actually.
I'm gonna have to go and look for that. Podcasts or TV?
Oh, podcasts for sure.
Cool. And if you had 2 hours with no other responsibility, what would you do?
2 hours. To be honest, I'd probably geek out on kind
I
of
thought you might say
the
that.
stuff. Yeah, all the stuff that I've seen on various different socials and going, I just haven't got time to look at that. If I had, if I had 2 hours, but if I wasn't going to do that, if I was forced to step away from the computer, I'd probably do some sketching or maybe play some music, play the guitar, something like that.
Nice. We haven't even got. All right. Okay. So I didn't even get into the artistic side of you. That's. We'll get to that in another conversation. Books or audiobooks?
Books, 100%. Narrowly on Kindle just because it's more convenient, but I do love real books. I love the smell of real books and like that feeling of just and being able to turn the page and just be able to fall asleep with it kind of coming out on your face. It's just like basically it's just physical, tangible things in this world of like digital everything. Having something tangible is just something really special.
Yeah. No, I definitely. There is something nice about having a treasured book, something that you can actually say, that's mine. I've read it. I love it. There's dog ears on it. It means something to me. Even though I like reading on Kindle because I like the practicality of it, I do have the
Yeah.
entire Terry Pratchett collection for Discworld because I love that series,
Yeah.
and so I do love. Well, I'm looking to my left because I have a bookcase full of books. About half of them I've read. uh, cool. Last one: glass half full or half empty?
Oh, it has to be half full. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I kind of naturally will try and have a positive view of things. And I mean, my mum used to say, if you've got nothing positive to say, don't say anything. That was her. And I think that's pretty good guide, really,
Yeah.
to the way which we work with other people and how we interact with people.
Yeah, no, it's a classic phrase. A lot of us certainly have been have been told. The other one I like that is even if you're not having a good day, because I used to work in a call center, and the advice they always said was just try and smile when you're talking to people, and it's amazing how much of an effect that actually has. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really does. That
100%.
physical action can change your mental headspace. So yes, absolutely. If you don't have
Yeah.
anything positive to say, don't say anything at all, and smile whenever you're talking.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the act of smiling releases like serotonin into your brain. So, yeah, like if you're having a bad day, just sit there with a silly grin on your face, and suddenly it's going to get a lot better.
Go listen to Waikiki Radio.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right, Scott, this has been brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me today. And to all you listeners out there, please do subscribe. Thank you very much for joining us. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.
Cheers then.